Alright, so this is my Bolmeteus shield killer deck. The obvious idea of this deck is to kill shields. Burn them, whichever way you want to refer to them, send them to the grave. That's the whole idea, is they're trying not to trigger shield triggers. You're also not trying to give your opponent any resources, any cards. You want his shields to go to the grave. So obviously we have Bolmeteus Steel Dragon. We also have Core Crash Lizard, and we have Boot, the Vile Centurion. Those three monsters right there, which is a total of 12 copies, 12 cards in your deck. They have the ability to kill your opponent's shields, but you only need to kill 5. So Bolmeteus Steel Dragon is a double breaker. So alone, just by attacking, you can break 2 shields. But the thing you want is, whenever this creature would break his shield, your opponent puts that shield into his graveyard instead. So he breaks 2 shields, and they're both sent to the grave. They do not trigger their shield trigger abilities, and they do not go to your opponent's hand. That makes them extremely dangerous, because 3 attacks from him is enough to put your opponent into danger zone. Alright, so he's obviously a good card, right? And then we got Core Crash Lizard. When you put this creature into the battle zone, choose one of your opponent's shields and put it into his graveyard, which is good. That effect is really good, because of course you don't have to attack, you just gotta summon him. And since there's no way for your opponent to negate that effect unless they already have a creature on the field that can negate the effects of red creatures, it'll be hard for your opponent to prevent this. And of course this doesn't trigger no shield triggers, so the cards, whatever shield you choose from your opponent's side of the field, will go straight to the grave. And that's how you kill the shields, right? Make them useless to your opponent. So just by summoning it, it already has a devastating effect. Then we have Boot. When you put this creature into the battle zone, choose one of your opponent's shields and put it into the graveyard. Same effect as Core Crash Lizard. We have Bronze Arm Tribe for mana accelerating, because when you put this creature into the battle zone, put the top card of your deck into your mana zone. So on your 3rd turn you have 4 mana, so that way on your 4th turn you have 5 mana. Alright, so that way on your 6th, your 3rd turn you have 4, your 4th turn you have 5, your 5th turn you have 6, and your 6th turn you have 7. You have 7 mana. So it just puts you 1 turn ahead. That's the whole idea. Puts you 1 turn ahead. And of course, if you, on your 4th turn, you summon another Bronze Arm Tribe, you know, obviously that puts you 2 turns ahead. And the sooner the better, because Bolmeteus is 7, Core Crash Lizard is 7, and Boot is 6. So they're trying to get them onto the field as soon as possible. So Bronze Arm Tribe helps with that. For more mana accelerating, we have Poisonous Mushroom, cost 2, cheap, easy to get onto the field. And when this creature is put into the battle zone, you may put 1 card from your hand into your mana zone. It's good for in case you have any extra copies of some creatures in your hand that you don't really need. For example, let's say you have a Magma Rex, you know, since you rather have him in the shield zone than in your hand, so you can just drop him into your mana zone, and that'll help you accelerate your mana. So imagine summoning a Poisonous Mushroom on your 2nd turn, right? So that you can put a Magma Rex, for example, into your mana zone. So on your 2nd turn you have 3 mana. That way, on your that way in your 3rd turn, you play mana, You have 4 mana. You play 3 to summon him. You put another mana. So now you have 5 mana on your 3rd turn, as opposed to having 4. So that puts you 2 turns ahead. So that's definitely what you want to happen. You want to get Poisonous Mushroom on turn 2 and turn 3 Bronze Arm Tribe. That way you're already on 5 mana, so by the time you're on your 4th turn, you have 6 mana, and you can automatically be able to summon your Gajira Boot. And then the following turn, you can summon Core Crash Lizard or Bolmeteus Steel Dragon. And give me a sec. Sorry about that. So continuing on, these are the shield triggers. You want to have a decent balance of green, red, and black. All right, so that we can afford to cast your creatures. And of course, having some shield trigger monsters helps, because the sooner you get creatures in the field, the sooner you can attack your opponent directly for game or attack their shields. Because the idea is just to attack them directly. So even if you don't end up burning all their shields, just sending them to a grave, even just attacking, because you might run into a Red Rush deck, for example, that they summon, they attack, they summon, they attack. So you want some type of defense. So having half your deck shield triggers and their monsters are very useful, because that's the best way to deal with your opponent's monsters, is that they hit your shield, you summon a monster, right, from your shield zone, and then on your turn you attack their tap monster with the shield trigger monster, if the monster's strong enough. But some of these shield trigger monsters do have abilities to destroy monsters or bounce or whatever. And I wanted to make sure I meet the colors. I want to have shields, trigger cards and monsters or whatever, right, that fit the color scheme of the deck. So of course, here's a green shield trigger monster, which is Whip Scorpion. It has power attacker, which means it gets 3,000 power while it is attacking. So it's a 2,000 regular, but when it attacks, it becomes a 5,000, which can kill a lot of things. So it's definitely something you want to have. Magma Rex, when it comes into the battle zone, destroy all creatures that has power 1,000 or less. Good for getting rid of any blockers, anything cheap in general. It's just good for getting rid of any cheap monsters that have 1,000 power. That's what I mean by cheap. And he's red, so obviously it helps you summon your Bolmeteus and your Core Crash Lizard. Love those pixels, right? Yeah, I think I need to get a better image of this card. I forgot. Anyway, this is Cannoneer Bargon. Shield trigger ability. This it's a 4,000, and it cannot attack players. It can attack creatures, but it can't attack your opponent and attack his shields. So it's just a nice little 4,000 beater. Obviously very helpful in killing your opponent's monsters, especially blockers, so that way they can't block you from winning, right? Locomotiver. Shield trigger. When you put this creature into the battle zone, your opponent discards a card at random from his hand. It's the shield trigger monster, obviously, but that ability to make your opponent discard a card from their hand is useful. The less resources, the less cards they have in the hand, the better. There are some decks that that do like to draw, they add draw power into their deck, so it's a good idea to have stuff that reduces their draw power. So they draw, then with this effect you make them lose, right? the cards that you end up drawing. You want to reduce their abilities to make a comeback, to fight back. Hopefully you hit some spells, especially mass removal spells that destroy multiple monsters. You know, maybe even destroy your opponent's, you know, I mean, this make your opponent discard a Magma Rex or something of that nature. And of course, it's a darkness creature, so you can use it to pay for YUGIOH boot. Giga Balza, shield trigger monster. It has the effect that when you put this creature into the battle zone, your opponent discards a card at random from his hand. Hey, what does that sound like? That sounds like Locomotiver. So right there, you essentially have 8 Locomotiver. So you have 8 darkness shield trigger monsters that have the ability to make your opponent randomly discard a card from their hand. So it definitely will hurt your opponent, it will disrupt them. They'll have less cards to play with, especially if you're hitting their shields and their shields are going to their hands from your other creatures. You know, but of course the goal is to burn them, so that's your main strategy, is to burn his shields, so that way he gets nothing in his hand, that way he doesn't trigger any of them, especially if he's running a good amount of shield trigger monsters, or just if he has a full shield trigger deck. Obviously this will be a really good deck against a shield trigger deck, right? Deck that's just 40 shield triggers, right? 40 and up. And that's the end of the deck profile.